Now we will move forward to our much-awaited Fireside chat, which is on the topic, how to survive the restaurant industry in a pandemic. I'm sure that many restaurant businesses are looking for effective tips on this topic. To show us the way, we have Louise Tang, General Manager at Square Pie Guys, and Woody Van Horn, the Chief Operating Officer and partner at Om Vino, to walk us through this Fireside chat. Welcome them to the stage.
Hello.
Hi. It really is bright up here.
It is bright up here. Hi, everybody. My name is Woody Van Horn, and I'll give a little bit about my background, and then we'll jump over to Louise. But I ran restaurants for 15. I've been in the industry since high school, but I did a lot of different types of restaurants: fine dining, hotels, restaurants, and then I jumped into consulting, and I've done that for the last 5 years. So I was in the middle of the pandemic, about to open. We were actually opening a restaurant on March 15th was my day one of all my new staff starting at a brand new opening. So I went through health inspection, got our health inspection passed, and my staff was starting, and then everybody kind of, the owners were like, don't bring anybody on, stop right now. And I had to shut the doors and throw everything in the fridge out. So that was my story. So I haven't actually been in restaurants this year, but I'm going to do a little interview here and ask her what she's been doing this year. So Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Woody. Hi, everybody. My name is Louise Tang. I have been in the restaurant industry for over 20 years. And currently, I work with a company called Square Pie Guys. We specialize in Detroit-style pizza, and we're based out of San Francisco. Pretty much started with two owners who are pizza obsessed. They started with a pop-up in 2019. We gained a cult fan following and opened up our first store in San Francisco, and we actually have a second store in Oakland as well. So pretty much I'm here today just to talk about our successes, what we did during the pandemic, and hopefully to give you guys some insight on surviving the restaurant industry, since I've lived it and breathed it since COVID started. So.
Perfect. So you said 2 locations?
Yes, currently 2 locations.
And when this whole thing went down, how many employees did you have, right, when you were starting?
We had about 30 employees, and we actually were fortunate not to lay anybody off.
Oh, awesome.
And actually grew, so.
And then how did you ever close completely or furlough anybody, or?
There was a time where we did close down because one of our employees did test positive for COVID. So we worked with the San Francisco Health Department, and basically we were on the conservative side where we actually closed down where we didn't need to. But at the time that we were notified of the positive test, we actually, drove all of our employees to the local test centers. All of us got tested at the same time, and we were with them throughout the whole process. We did have COVID pay for the days that were missed, but we just wanted to let our employees know that we were there to support them and that we were all in it together. And it wasn't just them or us, but we were all together and in the world of the unknown.
That was one of the things that I had a couple clients that I was working with, and one restaurant popped positive, and then I had my sister owns a salon, and they were in the same kind of like category as restaurants, and so a lot of them got shut down. But when one of their employees popped, and you're in close contact with people, and that we stopped. It was like, get everyone tested, and there really wasn't any technical rules. So what I was advising everybody, and what I think that most people fell back on, was following the OSHA law. Just don't break OSHA laws, and don't break
Exactly.
health department, and follow recommendations of CDC. And that's kind of what I recommended to everybody do. We went through that, and it was scary because employees don't know what to do. They're asking questions. Am I allowed to come back? Am I allowed to get paid? Am I allowed to do this? And so we kind of navigated all through that. Is there anything you would have done differently if you look back?
I think since it was a precedent time, we did the best that we could with the information, which was changing daily, given to us. So We let our employees know that, things are subject to change. As soon as we know, we will let you guys know. But again, going into making sure that we're fully transparent with our employees as well as our guests. We utilize, channels of Instagram as well as internal communications. We had our own WhatsApp group, and we also used our scheduling software to pass important memos and documentation of things such as when the mayor closed down San Francisco, we were on, the quarantine lockdown, how, every business had to, close, or every employee had to be in their house by 10 o'clock. So we had to make sure that everybody was informed. We had to adjust schedules, but also make sure that we had ID cards for our employees that said that they were essential workers.
Okay.
So,
what were the, major ways you adapted as far as like, just for PPE and things like that? Like, what was the daily change, or how did you make those calls?
Yeah, so basically, of course, we had to enforce the wearing of masks. We actually had to create a COVID checklist, which we still use today. We had to take temperatures of employees, but also again working with our health department when people would pick up their items, whether it was delivery or takeout. We had to enforce the policy of they had to have a mask, they had to get sanitizer before we were able to hand off their food until that was recently changed. But we did get a lot of kickback from people that are like, well, why do I have to wear a mask? And I don't feel like using the sanitizer. So, we took a hard stance on that. And, we were commended by a lot of our followers and our guests for making sure that we were putting safety of our guests and our employees first, and doing the best that we can to stop the virus.
Did you, sometimes like at the top, there's like different, when you're having those meetings with the owners or other management, were there disagreements, or how did you guys kind of manage that stress level?
I don't think there were disagreements. Honestly, we would have, countless roundtable meetings to see, well, safety's first. How can we, implement something new? And also, we also still had, of course, safety first in the front of our minds. So we, again, wanting to keep our staff safe and wanting to limit the, spread of COVID was high on our list.
I had, when we were coming up to it, it was, opening restaurants is kind of crazy, and we had construction delayed, and it was like I had hired a manager, we had a celebrity chef from Top Chef as a consultant, and he was, training our, not a cheap adventure. So we're having this guy train, and then we had done all this interviewing, and we're getting ready to open, and then it was funny because health inspection came, we passed, and then I had about a week where our water heater went out because it was brand new, kind of like new equipment, and I was continually fighting with the owners every day. I'm like, you can't. Like, this was in February. It was like the end of February, and I was like, we can't. I'm the food safety manager here. I was like, I can't be okay with. I've never ran a restaurant for more than 6 hours without a hot water heater. Like, it's like, get someone down here immediately. But they wanted to deal with the warranty, and it was like, we're gonna get a new one shipped in, and all this stuff. And it was like, that was one of the stressful things because I was an outside agent. I was a contractor, and then I'm, fighting with the owners about like ethics, and they were like, my life savings has gone into this project and everything's going to go down it was one of those things that we were just stressing about. So, and then, so you said you adapted, did you have any dining room space that you had to close down?
We did, pre-COVID, we did have dining room space, but during COVID, we did turn the dining room into more of like a assembly line for takeout and deliveries.
Okay.
So we were very fortunate to have a product that was one, your comfort food that everybody wanted, but
Right.
also two, we had a product that was able to travel well during delivery and for takeout.
Okay. We had, after I finished that project, when they did open up again, because my contract ended, and I keep in touch with them, and they'd opened up again in May. or roughly right around then. It was like the grand opening, but they only went to like 2 days a week. It was like 2 or 3 days a week, and I was looking at like what's the right way to do that. Like the stress of opening a restaurant, especially with all of that going on. You can't really do PR around it. You know what I mean? You can't really do marketing. You're trying to open this place, and watching them do that is at least to grease the wheels, or at least to like welcome the neighbors, or at least to like be something there for the neighborhood, because that was what their goal was in this spot. And I was just so scared from that this whole thing was going to go down in flames. And so they stayed open. They made it through. My sister, she shut down her business 3 times, and they stayed through. But it was one of those things where nobody knew what to do, and it was kind of wild.
Yeah, for sure.
Any insights you would say to prepare, or just from I'm sure you know other restaurant people, like what is something that what are some mistakes you saw people make, or that you think that they regretted or whatnot? Because these guys laid off everybody, and it was like everyone quit their jobs, everyone was starting, and it was a small town, and I was like, how are you going to recover from that? Because you just ruined everything for these guys. But I think they just stand tall and kind of made it through. So,
well, I can't really speak to that, because we were fortunate that we didn't have to close, and we actually ended up opening a second location this past March. But I think what really helped us was that we really had an ability to communicate with our guests via social media, of course, but
Right.
we were able to give them what they wanted and what they needed, but also, even though we took the dine-in aspect away, we kind of still gave them the control of like, okay, well, what did you like? What did you didn't like? Use of surveys, use of, definitely working with third-party vendors such as DoorDash, Caviar, Uber Eats, making sure that, again, during the time when it was heightened, we had, contactless payment. So basically, we just adapted in a way where our food was ready to be adapted and to go in that direction, but also keeping our menu fresh. So we have like a seasonal menu where we have different pizzas, but also working with collaborations. We did have a collaboration with Jeremy Lin where we had a Jalen pizza, and it was very popular in the Bay Area. But the owners are really big on collaborations and working with fellow people in our industry.
From a PR standpoint, did you disclose or make an announcement to anybody when you did have that testing positive thing?
Of course, yes, we did. We
Okay.
had to disclose it to everybody that was working, but also to the public as well. And we let them know that during the 1-week closure that we did have, that was the reason why.
Okay.
So,
One thing I saw, it was just, and this is coming from, my background's been mostly fine dining, and I have different people that have worked for me for the years or whatnot, and we had this, I'm friends with a bunch of them, and so one of them was working at a very famous steakhouse, and it's been so hard because owners are trying to adapt, and I think that, one of the best practices is just to fully disclose what's going on. And it was like looking from a labor perspective, is like, okay, we're going to open all this outdoor dining space now, or they shut down the city blocks and they did the alfresco dining kind of thing, and it was, that's so hard on staff, and I just heard different staff members, because I had a really great crew that worked for me for many years, and then when I went independent, I kind of gave recommendations for them all to go work at new hotel that was opening up, and a new restaurant, the Friends Restaurant Group that was opening, and they worked there, but it was like every time, I had a sommelier that worked for me, and he was like, the biggest problem I've had is like, owners have to make these decisions that are like, detrimental to like the whole crew. They have to make financial decisions, and that lies on their shoulders. But the impact of your reputation, how you treat your staff, how the how the communication channels are, owners don't want to go get quoted all the time. Some of them do, some people want to, but some of them are just like telling managers, hey, shut it down, or, fire these people, or, we got to look out for these priorities. And I've had people come to me like, they're not following any of the rules. They're not telling, they're just it's just crazy. And then you have management too that are just leaving. They're just, I can't handle this anymore. And so you have managers leave, you have people going, you have staff going like, I've seen this steakhouse now, no sommelier, no lead bartender, none of the liquor lists are updated, none of the wine lists are updated. They're just wandering around the cellar looking for stuff. You have people that are very demanding, that when you're in a, fine dining establishment, you do expect a certain level of service. Not trying to talk bad about Vegas, but this is depressing. What's going on here? Like, I'm like beautiful hotels and all that stuff, but, I waited 45 minutes at Starbucks at 6:30 this morning. Like, that's crazy. And it's like, I still tip 25% because I want to, take care of the staff, and I'm glad that they're here. But like, where are we going with this? And where, and I think that, as they do lift, California's talking about changing what unemployment's available now and things like that as they reopen. Things I'm scared about are just people that shifted out of this industry completely. For a long time, San Diego relies on students from SDSU to fill in the hostess positions, busboy, food runners. That's all I hired for years, and some of them become career servers. But when I talk to people now, they're like, no, we don't have busboys anymore. There's no one at the door. You have one manager kind of like trying to do everything. And so and the complaints from the senior veteran servers or sommeliers or people that really have made this a career that didn't go exempt, that didn't become management, they're just like, there's no communication. There's nobody out there that's like taking care of their staff. And I think that the ways to survive this going forward and ways to rebuild this is, you need to get. I have friends that are here that run wine programs for this company, MGM and whatnot, and been buyers here for 20 years, and then now they're at a spot where they're laid off and they move back to the Midwest somewhere. They're just, I'm out. And you had a lot of students going, I'm remote now. And even me, like, as soon as that contract ended, because I was working on a partnership deal, and when I was out of contract, they said, well, the PPP doesn't pay for contractors, so later. And I was like, understood. And I wasn't offended, but I was like, man, this is kind of a crazy way to do this. And then we get to a point where, like, people that are willing to work for a $45,000 salary or $50,000 salary in a high, tier 1 market, they're doing that to learn, and they're doing that to like move forward. But if it's not in a position where there's mentors, and there's not a position where there's people that are willing to take care and show you the next ropes, I think a lot of people give up on this stuff. And you look at the demographic of Gen X that was like kind of in that management area right now, that's like department heads, there's not enough of them to mentor the amount of millennials out there, or Gen Z at this point. And so one of the things I look at is how do we recover this? And yeah, there's online learning, and people learn about wine now online, and there's ways of that, but there's really no mentorship that is teaching people about hospitality, how to take care of people, how to prioritize guest needs, how to not say something that's going to get you in trouble legally. There's all those things. And so I feel like there's going to be, eventually there will be a lot of lawsuits, and I hope not. I don't want people, but the people that stuck through it, and the people that were honest with their employees and stuck through it, and were just upfront with people and kept people involved, at least in the communication cycles, was probably one of my, I guess, best practices that I would mention, because the people that I hear from are the ones that like, hey, they implemented this new tip pool and they didn't tell us anything about it. I don't even know how I make money anymore. I'm just clocking in, and it's just because they don't, they have an ethic thing. They don't want to like just sit at home, but some people do. But it's been an interesting time for me as far as like watching those things happen. And I'm like, well, I can reach out to these owners and offer my guidance, because I've dealt with a lot of line employees. But when you're like asking for what you need to make, and there's no PPP and there's no income, you kind of watch that not land anywhere. So
I totally agree with you, Woody. I think myself and my company have been very fortunate to work with, young owners that truly care about their employees, and been fully transparent with all the decisions that have been made. We have pre-shift meetings regularly. We talk about what's coming down the pipeline. Like, we ask them for each and everyone's opinion. Again, taking care of your employees is very important for, loyalty, but also growing your business. So, we just implemented a 401k program for all employees, not just for managers. So I think that's huge. We provide a free meal per day, per the shift that you work. And we also have full medical, dental, and vision benefits as well. So, us as a company, we're growing, and, we take that in stride. We like to promote from within, but obviously if we can't, then we will, seek that talent out. And again, I've just been very fortunate to actually talk to the owners directly and give them my opinion and my advice, but also, pass on my communication from my hourlies to let them know how they're feeling, especially during this time. And we've just been very fortunate. So,
what do you think the future? One of the things I've seen is a lot of restaurants I've opened. You're hand in hand with commercial real estate. You have these buildings that nobody wants the first floor empty. You want to have restaurants. You want to have everybody living above have a cool place to live and go. I don't know if the big glitz and glam is going to be sustainable. I don't think minimum wage can afford a large brigade system. I think that we lose a little bit of the romance of with tablets and all of that stuff. I love them. I love from a operator's standpoint. I love that I can run inventory live with and then have toast and then have people standing there and putting orders in quickly and printing chits or just going completely paperless. That's a dream, but I think we lose some of that, and it makes me curious about what the future of all this is. The cocktail, having professional wine programs. I consulted on a program where people were looking for iPad, and basically you're FaceTiming beverage professionals, and I was like, that's a crazy. I was like, I don't know how that's going to work because we're not going to be live with inventory, and so from an operator standpoint, I don't know if I would want to invest or put in $2 million in TI money to build out a full restaurant with full service like that. I think the future is going to be a lot of these smaller, even with the ghost kitchens that are going on where. Chuck E. Cheese is now selling like meatball sandwiches under some fake name, and you're like, what is going on? I don't know what the future is on those. So I'm curious to see, what do you think the future is on restaurants in general? Do you think it's going to stay smaller or corporate or?
I think I can't really speak from the full side service of it. I totally understand what you're saying, but I know from like the quick serve service model, going contactless and using tablets is the way to go. Obviously right now, since we're just getting California opened up, but it's really good for people that do want to look for a space because landlords are giving them the space at a way lower price and way lower rent. So if you can do that, but I think you just have to be able to adapt and talk to other people in the industry that have been successful and see what they're doing. It may or may not work for you, but if it is successful for somebody, then it probably works.
I think one of the things I would probably recommend to owners is to find a vesting schedule for management positions. I've seen so many managers or owners that would they'll make that offer to like a chef because you don't want to lose your image, you don't want to lose that chef, and so you keep them around. The GM can disappear and no one cares. It's like it's just a new GM comes in, but if you lose your chef, there's a whole rebrand that you kind of got to do a lot of times. So, but losing that GM, you're losing morale, you're losing staff, all those things that somebody can kind of run that ship. And I mean, my recommendation, honestly, to go forward would be consider setting up a 2-year vesting schedule to give someone a percentage points on that, because that's something that hasn't been really looked at much for front of the house or kind of journalists. It's been mostly like that chef to make it his restaurant, give him some ownership. But I think that we're at risk of this transient behavior of younger workers. I don't blame them. You know what I mean?
For
but
sure.
that era is gone, and a lot of people have always looked at, work somewhere forever, and nobody. I mean, if you're on social media or TikTok or anything, there's nobody cares about, I worked here 20 years. It's just not a thing anymore. So I think if we kind of look at the future of how do we make a sustainable business practice and how do we survive this, I think we have to make agreements and that's one of the things I did. I had a partner at Vino now. I had a dear friend of mine that, she owns this marketing company, and it just got to a point where she was like, listen, she offered it to me in March. And it was like, she's like, I would love to bring you on because, and I said, well, I got time on my hands right now because restaurants aren't doing anything. And I got in with her, and now I'm running Zoom courses, and I'm helping people do remote events, and I'm, remotely onboarding clients to marketing thing. It's not anything that I can't do, but it was not the line of work I've done for 20 years. It was more something that I adapted to. But the main thing that really supported was her openness to say, hey, I'm going to bring on a partner. And it was like something like that where I'm like, yes, of course, I care about this company and I want to own it like metaphorically, own my position and own how we take care of our staff. And I think that is a thing to consider for people that are trying to manage or hold together a big picture.
Agreed. Questions?
Questions? Anybody want to talk about anything specific on this subject, or?
No.
All right.
I guess we did our job then.
You got any more notes?
Not really.
Yes.
You're painting a picture of the future of the restaurant industry. It's kind of scary because it employs a lot of people.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Is there any kind of support that the industry can be doing to help the individual owners, like the National Restaurant Association? Is there something they could be doing to assist? Is there something the government could be doing to assist to help create some stability in restaurants going forward?
I honestly think that's the next step. You know what I mean? Like what we're looking for. I think it was too dark or too not dark. Dark is in a unknown. Like we couldn't see through the fog. And I think that now, as this reopening is happening, we do need. I think that we do need to consider. I know there was this California bill that was going for a long time, and everybody was looking, or the restaurant bill, and I don't know how much that never really panned out. I know California has given out a bunch of grants now, and we're working on some of those things. But it was from a support aspect. I watched the sommelier. There was a sommelier fund that got raised because they were the first ones to get let go. And it was like all these people that I've known for 20 years that run beverage programs, which is like the most profitable piece of your industry. It was just like, well, we can't keep this dead weight around. So all those SOMs got let go. And then what we did is we went around, there was a SOM fund, or United Sommelier Foundation, that was created. And then we hit up all the wineries that we've sold their wines for years. And those wineries donated over $1 million to help SOMs are not the whole world, it's a very specific niche piece, but it was something that kind of came together, and it was those pieces made sense. I reached out to wineries that I've worked with for years, and I said, listen, I want to continue to work with you in any way I can. And those were, those conversations happened. The future of, same with events. Watching, I don't know what the future of events. This is looking promising that we're, on the road back. I'm excited about that because I've done Pebble Beach Food and Wine, LA Food and Wine, Aspen Food and Wine for the last 5 years. I've done SomCon East Coast, West Coast for the last, 4.5. And those were big, huge events that were a lot of food and wine gets pumped through those things, and it really supports the marketing of what that industry is. And to watch that kind of dry up and we don't know what's going to happen, I think that I don't think those businesses are going away. I don't think, Bacardi or Don Julio or any of the big liquor brands are going away. I just think it's something that everybody needed to wait and get through that. And they were doing fine in retail. Retail took care of, their needs. But to build back that other sector is going to be something that we're going to have to support. And I think that there will be those pieces. I think that as these businesses struggle, but I think the main thing is having a house, and those restaurants are going to be first. So I think that the commercial real estate piece is going to help when they drop rent and make a restaurant able to do it. Because I had my rent was $30,000 a month for this one place that we were in San Diego, and that was nuts. It wasn't sustainable, but we were pumping the machine. You know what I mean? The celebrity chef was going, and we had the place wasn't vacant, and everybody was doing their job. The restaurant investors might not have made any cut, but it was a good piece, and those pieces all tie together. So I think that if we give restaurants, I think the biggest thing is either break on rent, subsidies. I think that a natural the water's going to find its path, and it might be a new way that the tributary of the river goes down, but I don't know a specific answer that's going to make the biggest difference, but I think that if you look at a regular P&L, you look at how you're supposed to profit in a restaurant and you're like 30, you have a break-even point, and that is all depending on your fixed expenses. And I think your fixed expenses, if that gets a break somewhere, then the rest of the cost of goods can take care of itself. I think cost of goods will manage itself. But the break-even point on rent it was inflated to a point where, it keeps going until it stops. So now here we are. Did that answer your question? Or I'm kind of, all right. Anyone else? All right.
Yeah, well, I guess that's it.
All right.
Thank you guys for your time.
We'll wrap this and we'll have a break. So
Yeah.
thank you guys.